"Come inside of me, human!" The whispered words send a jolt through Ambassador Gabriel Jackson's body. He freezes, caught off guard by the sudden proposition from Hera, a stunningly beautiful Zenari female. The secluded alcove of the Zenari High Council chambers suddenly feels claustrophobic, the air thick with tension and unexpected desire. Gabriel's mind races. Moments ago, he was steeling himself for the crucial negotiation session ahead. Now he faces an entirely different challenge. The Zenari, with their advanced technology and resource-rich territories, hold the key to humanity's expansion into disputed star systems. This encounter could alter the delicate balance of power between their species. Hera's eyes, a mesmerizing swirl of iridescent colors, lock onto Gabriel's. Her lithe form, covered in a shimmering, form-fitting suit, radiates an otherworldly allure. Gabriel feels a pull, an inexplicable attraction that defies logic and professional decorum. Time slows as Gabriel processes the situation. The high-stakes negotiations, years in the making, hang in the balance. One wrong move could jeopardize everything. Yet the urgency in Hera's voice hints at something more than mere physical attraction. Unbeknownst to Gabriel, Hera is no ordinary Zenari. As a high-ranking member of the Zenari Intelligence Division, she's been tasked with seducing the human ambassador. Her mission? Gain leverage in the ongoing negotiations. The fate of star systems and the future of human Zenari relations rest on this moment. Gabriel hesitates, visibly flustered. His training never prepared him for this. The logical part of his brain screams caution, but a primal instinct urges him forward. He opens his mouth to respond, but before words can form, chaos erupts. Alarms blare throughout the council chambers, their piercing wail shattering the charge moment. Shouts and screams filter through the ornate doors of the alcove. Gabriel's hand instinctively moves to his communicator, but it's dead. He's cut off from his security detail. "Separatists!" Hera hisses, her demeanor shifting from seductress to soldier in an instant. "They're attacking the compound. We need to move, now!" Gabriel's mind reels. Radical Zenari separatists, opposed to any cooperation with humans, have chosen this moment to strike. The diplomatic compound, once a symbol of potential peace, has become a battleground. Hera grabs Gabriel's hand, her grip firm and insistent. "I know a way out," she says, pulling him towards a hidden panel in the alcove's wall. "A secure bunker. We'll be safe there." Gabriel hesitates. His duty as an ambassador wars with his instinct for survival. Can he trust this alien who, moments ago, was propositioning him? The sounds of battle grow closer, leaving little time for deliberation. As Hera activates the hidden passage, Gabriel notices her discreetly touch a small device on her wrist. Suspicion flares. What is she really up to? Is this a rescue or a carefully orchestrated trap? The panel slides open, revealing a dark, narrow corridor. Hera steps inside, turning to Gabriel with an outstretched hand. "Come inside, human," she says, echoing her earlier words but with a new urgency. "It's our only chance." Gabriel takes a deep breath, weighing his options in a split second. The future of human-Zenari relations could hinge on his next move. With a silent prayer to whatever cosmic forces might be listening, he grasps Hera's hand and steps into the unknown. The panel slides shut behind them, plunging them into darkness. As they move through the secret passage, Gabriel's mind races with possibilities. What awaits them in this so-called bunker? How will this encounter impact the delicate balance between their species? And most importantly, can he uncover Hera's true motives before it's too late? In the darkness, with only the sound of their breathing and hurried footsteps, Gabriel Jackson, Ambassador of Earth, realizes that diplomacy has taken a back seat to survival. The real negotiations are just beginning. The darkness enveloped them as they moved swiftly through the narrow passage. Gabriel's heart raced, his senses on high alert. The cool, musty air filled his nostrils, a stark contrast to the perfumed scent of Hera that still lingered on his skin. Their footsteps echoed softly against the metal walls, each sound amplifying Gabriel's anxiety. Suddenly, a faint red glow illuminated the corridor ahead. Gabriel instinctively reached out, pulling Hera to a stop. "Wait," he whispered, his military training kicking in. He squinted, focusing on the source of the light. A thin, barely visible beam stretched across the passage. Laser grid, Hera breathed, her voice a mix of surprise and admiration. Ancient Zanari security. I didn't know this was still active. Gabriel's mind raced, assessing the situation. He spotted a small control panel on the wall, its alien symbols glowing faintly. Can you disable it? He asked, gesturing towards the panel. Hera shook her head. Not without triggering an alarm. We'll have to find another way. Gabriel surveyed the corridor, his eyes now adjusted to the dim light. He noticed subtle indentations in the floor, spaced at regular intervals. Motion sensors, he murmured. We'll have to time this perfectly. Without warning, Gabriel dropped to the ground, his body flat against the cool metal. He inched forward, carefully observing the pattern of the laser grid. After a moment, he turned to Hera. Follow my lead. Move exactly as I do, when I do. Understood? Hera nodded, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and excitement. Gabriel took a deep breath, then began to move. He rolled to the side just as the first laser beam swept past. In one fluid motion, he pushed himself up and vaulted over the next beam, landing in a crouch between two sensors. Hera followed, her movements graceful and precise. They continued this intricate dance through the corridor, their bodies in perfect sync. Gabriel's heart pounded in his chest, adrenaline coursing through his veins. He could feel Hera's breath on the back of his neck, her presence both comforting and distracting. After what felt like an eternity, they reached the end of the laser grid. Gabriel let out a sigh of relief, turning to Hera with a small smile. Not bad for a diplomat, huh? Hera's eyes sparkled with admiration. I'm impressed, Ambassador. Your skills extend far beyond the negotiating table. As they continued down the passage, the air grew thicker, the space narrowing. Gabriel could feel the heat radiating from Hera's body, their proximity unavoidable in the confined space. The sexual tension that had been momentarily forgotten in the face of danger returned with a vengeance. Finally, they reached a small chamber at the end of the passage. As Gabriel stepped inside, his eyes immediately locked onto a blinking device on Hera's wrist. Suspicion flared in his chest. What is that? He demanded, his voice low and controlled. Hera froze, her hand instinctively moving to cover the device. For a moment she looked torn, then her shoulders sagged in defeat. I'm not who you think I am, Gabriel. Explain, Gabriel said, his body tensing for potential conflict. Hera took a deep breath. I'm an operative for Zanari intelligence. My mission was to seduce you, to gain information that would give us an advantage in the negotiations. She paused, her eyes meeting Gabriel's. But things have changed. You're not what I expected. Gabriel's mind reeled. He should have felt betrayed, angry, but instead he found himself oddly impressed by her honesty. And now, he asked, his voice softer than he intended. Now, I'm not sure, Hera admitted. Your bravery, your kindness, it's made things complicated. Before Gabriel could respond, a loud crackle filled the chamber. A communication panel on the wall sprang to life, filling the room with urgent voices. The separatists had taken control of the council chambers. Diplomats were being held hostage. A name cut through the chaos, Zorak, the leader of the separatists. Gabriel's diplomatic instincts kicked in. He turned to Hera, his eyes blazing with perseverance. We need to stop this. Together. Hera hesitated, then nodded. I can access the building's security network through my device. We could use the ventilation system to approach the council chambers undetected. As they formulated their plan, Gabriel discovered a cache of Zanari weapons hidden in a compartment. He armed himself with an alien blaster, its unfamiliar weight both exciting and terrifying. As they prepared to leave, the air in the chamber seemed to thicken. Gabriel found himself hyper-aware of Hera's presence, the curve of her body, the depth of her eyes. Hera stepped closer, her voice barely above a whisper. Gabriel, my initial proposition wasn't entirely an act. I find humans, especially you, genuinely attractive. Gabriel's breath caught in his throat. Despite everything, he couldn't deny the pull he felt towards her. In one swift motion, he closed the distance between them, capturing her lips in a passionate kiss. Hera responded with equal fervor, their bodies pressing together in the small space. As they broke apart, both breathless, Gabriel's mind raced with the implications of what they were about to do. They stood at the threshold of the ventilation shaft, the dangers ahead looming large. "Ready?" Gabriel asked, his voice husky. Hera nodded, her eyes shining with a mix of excitement and fear. "Let's save your people, Ambassador." With one last shared look, they entered the ventilation system, crawling into the unknown. The fate of two species hung in the balance as they moved through the darkness, their minds focused on the task ahead, but their bodies still tingling from their intimate encounter. The ventilation shaft was tight, barely wide enough for Gabriel's broad shoulders. He crawled forward on his elbows, the metal cool against his skin. Hera moved silently behind him, her lithe form navigating the cramped space with ease. As they inched along, Gabriel's mind raced. The kiss they'd shared in the hidden chamber still lingered on his lips, a moment of passion amidst the chaos. But now, duty called. They had a mission to complete. "Left here," Hera whispered, her breath warm against his ear. Gabriel nodded, following her directions. The sounds of commotion grew louder as they approached the council chambers. Gabriel's heart pounded in his chest, adrenaline coursing through his veins. They reached a junction, peering through a grate into the room below. The scene that greeted them was one of tense hostility. Separatists, armed with sleek Zenari weapons, stood guard over a group of huddled diplomats. Gabriel's eyes widened as he spotted his own security team among the captives, their faces grim and alert. At the center of it all stood Zorak, his imposing figure radiating authority. The separatist leader paced back and forth, his voice a low growl as he addressed the hostages. "We need a distraction," Gabriel whispered, his mind racing through potential strategies. Hera nodded, her fingers dancing over the device on her wrist. "I can access the environmental controls. Give me a moment." As Hera worked her technological magic, Gabriel observed the room below. He counted the guards, noting their positions and the layout of the chamber. His hand tightened around the alien blaster, its unfamiliar weight a constant reminder of the danger they faced. Suddenly, a subtle change swept through the room. The temperature began to rise, slowly but steadily. Gabriel watched as the separatists shifted uncomfortably, tugging at their collars and wiping sweat from their brows. "Now," Hera breathed. In one fluid motion, Gabriel kicked out the grate and dropped into the room. He landed in a crouch, his blaster already raised. Two guards near the hostages fell to stun bolts before they could even register his presence. Chaos erupted. Diplomats scrambled for cover as the separatists reacted to the sudden intrusion. Zorak's voice boomed over the commotion, barking orders to his men. Gabriel rolled behind an ornate pillar, narrowly avoiding a blast of energy that scorched the floor where he'd been standing. He peeked out, firing off another shot that sent a separatist crumpling to the ground. From above, Hera manipulated the chamber's lighting. The room plunged into darkness, then erupted in a dizzying strobe effect. Disoriented shouts filled the air as the separatists struggled to adapt. Taking advantage of the confusion, Gabriel sprinted towards the hostages. He reached his security team, quickly freeing them from their restraints. "Get the diplomats to safety," he ordered, pressing a spare blaster into the lead guard's hand. As his team moved to action, Gabriel turned his attention to Zorak. The separatist leader had grabbed a human diplomat, using her as a shield. His eyes locked with Gabriel's, a challenge clear in his gaze. "Surrender now, human," Zorak snarled, "or this one dies." Gabriel's mind raced, calculating his options. Before he could respond, a blur of motion caught his eye. Hera dropped from the ventilation shaft, landing with cat-like grace. In a flurry of movement, she disarmed two separatists, her body flowing like water as she ducked and weaved through their attacks. Her display of skill momentarily captivated Gabriel, a lapse in concentration that Zorak was quick to exploit. The separatist leader shoved his hostage aside and charged, his massive form barreling towards the human ambassador. Gabriel barely had time to raise his arms before Zorak's fist connected with his jaw. The force of the blow sent him staggering backwards, stars exploding in his vision. He tasted blood, his ears ringing from the impact. Zorak pressed his advantage, raining down blows that Gabriel struggled to block. The Zenari's greater size and strength were evident, each strike threatening to overwhelm the human's defenses. Gritting his teeth, Gabriel fought back. He ducked under a wide swing, countering with a quick jab to Zorek's midsection. The separatist grunted but seemed barely fazed by the hit. As they grappled, Gabriel's foot caught on a raised section of the chamber's floor. He stumbled, throwing his arms out to catch himself. Zorak seized the opportunity, his hand closing around Gabriel's throat. The world began to dim around the edges as Gabriel gasped for air. He clawed at Zorak's grip, his lungs burning. Just as his vision started to fade, a flash of movement caught his eye. Hera appeared behind Zorak, her face a mask of drive. Without hesitation, she threw herself between them, breaking the separatist's hold on Gabriel. The sudden intervention caught Zorak off guard, his eyes widening in surprise. Gabriel sucked in a desperate breath, his head clearing. He saw his blaster lying a few feet away, knocked from his hand during the fight. In one smooth motion, he dove for the weapon, his fingers closing around its grip. As he came up in a roll, Gabriel took aim. Zorak loomed over Hera, his massive fist raised to strike. Time seemed to slow as Gabriel squeezed the trigger. A bolt of energy erupted from the blaster, striking Zorak square in the chest. The separatist leader's body went rigid, then crumpled to the floor, unconscious. The chamber fell silent. The remaining separatists, seeing their leader fall, quickly surrendered. Gabriel's security team moved swiftly to secure the room, disarming the rebels and checking on the diplomats. Gabriel let out a shaky breath, lowering his weapon. His eyes met Hera's across the room. In that moment, a wordless understanding passed between them. They had faced this challenge together, their teamwork transcending their initial roles and expectations. As the immediate danger passed, Gabriel became aware of the other occupants of the room. Both human and Zanari diplomats watched him and Hera with a mixture of awe and curiosity. Their cooperation, it seemed, had not gone unnoticed. A group of Zanari officials approached, their ornate robes marking them as members of the High Council. The lead counselor, an elderly Zanari with intricate markings on his face, stepped forward. "Ambassador Jackson," he began, his voice carrying a note of reverence. "Your bravery and skill have saved many lives today. The Zanari people owe you a great debt." Gabriel nodded respectfully, wincing slightly at the movement. His body was beginning to feel the effects of the fight, each breath sending a dull ache through his ribs. The counselor continued, his eyes gleaming with an intensity that made Gabriel straighten. "We would like to offer you an unprecedented honor, a chance to participate in the Xanthor, our most sacred bonding ritual." Gabriel blinked, caught off guard by the offer. He opened his mouth to respond, but the counselor raised a hand, silencing him. "This ritual," the Zanari explained, "would symbolize a new era of cooperation between our species. It requires a Zanari partner, one who embodies the spirit of this new alliance." As if on cue, Hera stepped forward. Her eyes met Gabriel's, a mix of emotions swirling in their depths. "I volunteer," she said, her voice clear and unwavering. The room fell silent, all eyes on Gabriel. He felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him, the implications of this decision stretching far beyond the confines of the council chamber. His comm unit buzzed, a priority message from Earth flashing across the screen. Gabriel knew without looking that it would be orders to accept, to secure this diplomatic coup for humanity. Yet as he stood there, his gaze locked with Hera's, Gabriel found himself torn. The attraction between them was undeniable, a spark that had ignited in the midst of danger and grown into something more. But could he truly commit to such an intimate, life-altering experience with someone he barely knew? The fate of human Zanari relations hung in the balance, waiting for his answer. Gabriel took a deep breath, acutely aware that his next words would shape the future of both their species. Species. Gabriel took a deep breath, his decision crystallizing in his mind. "I accept," he said, his voice steady despite the gravity of the moment. "I will participate in the Xanthor with Hera." The High Council members nodded approvingly, their faces betraying a mix of relief and excitement. Hera's eyes widened slightly, a fleeting expression of surprise quickly replaced by one of tenacity. "Then let us prepare for the sacred ritual," the lead counselor announced. "We shall convene at the Temple of Eternal Unity in the bioluminescent forest at dawn." As the chamber bustled with activity, Gabriel felt a hand on his arm. He turned to find Hera standing close, her alien features softened by an almost imperceptible smile. "Are you certain about this, Gabriel?" she asked, her voice low. "The Xanthor is not to be taken lightly." Gabriel nodded, ignoring the dull ache in his ribs. "I am. It's our best chance at solidifying this alliance. And—" he hesitated, then continued, "I'd be lying if I said I wasn't intrigued by the prospect of a deeper connection with you." Hera's skin flushed a deeper shade of blue, her bioluminescent spots pulsing softly. "Then we shall face this together, as we did in battle." As night fell, Gabriel found himself being led to a secluded chamber within the Zenari complex. A group of robed attendants guided him to a pool filled with a softly glowing, gelatinous substance. "The purification process," one attendant explained. "It will prepare your body for the Xanthor." Gabriel hesitated for a moment before stepping into the pool. The gel was cool against his skin, enveloping him in a comforting embrace. As he submerged himself fully, he felt a tingling sensation spread throughout his body. His muscles relaxed, tension he didn't even know he was carrying melting away. When he emerged, Gabriel felt different. His senses seemed sharper, his movements more fluid. He caught his reflection in a polished surface and started. His skin had taken on a faint bluish tinge, and his eyes now held a subtle, otherworldly glow. As dawn approached, Gabriel was escorted to a transport vessel. The journey to the bioluminescent forest was short, but breathtaking. The alien landscape unfolded before him, a tapestry of pulsing lights and strange, undulating shapes. The Temple of Eternal Unity rose from the heart of the forest, its spires reaching towards the twin moons of the Zenari homeworld. As Gabriel approached, he noticed the increased security presence. Armed guards patrolled the perimeter, their eyes scanning for any signs of threat. At the temple entrance, Gabriel's breath caught in his throat. Hera stood waiting, adorned in traditional Zenari ceremonial attire. Intricate patterns of bioluminescent paint swirled across her blue skin, accentuating her alien beauty. For a moment, all thoughts of diplomacy and duty fled Gabriel's mind. "You look incredible," he managed, his voice barely above a whisper. Hera's spots pulsed in what Gabriel now recognized as a sign of pleasure. "As do you, Gabriel. The purification has left its mark on you." Before Gabriel could respond, a low, resonant tone echoed through the air. The High Council members appeared, their robes billowing in the light breeze. "It is time," the lead counselor intoned. "Enter the Chamber of Union, and may the spirits of our ancestors guide you." As Gabriel and Hera stepped into the inner sanctum, the air grew thick with a sweet, heady scent. The chamber was alive with pulsating, bioluminescent plants that seemed to reach out towards them. With each breath, Gabriel felt his consciousness expanding, his awareness of Hera growing stronger. They stood facing each other in the center of the chamber, their hands intertwined. Gabriel's heart raced as he gazed into Hera's eyes, seeing a depth of emotion he hadn't noticed before. "Breathe together," a disembodied voice instructed. "Let your hearts beat as one." Gabriel focused on matching his breathing to Hera's, feeling a strange connection forming between them. The plants around them pulsed in sync with their shared rhythm, creating a mesmerizing light show. As their mental barriers began to lower, Gabriel was flooded with alien sensations. He caught glimpses of Hera's memories, her training as an intelligence operative, her first encounter with humans, the moment she decided to help him. Along with these came a rush of emotions, curiosity, admiration, and something deeper, more profound. In turn, Gabriel felt his own thoughts and feelings laid bare. His initial skepticism about the Zenari, his growing respect for their culture, and his burgeoning feelings for Hera all flowed between them. Just as they reached a profound moment of connection, alarms blared throughout the temple complex. The shock of the noise jolted Gabriel and Hera from their trance-like state. "Intruders!" a voice shouted from outside the chamber. "The Separatists have breached the outer defenses." Gabriel's mind raced, still reeling from the interrupted bonding. He could sense Hera's thoughts, a jumble of strategy and concern. Without speaking, they moved in unison towards the chamber entrance. As they emerged into the temple proper, chaos reigned. Temple guards clashed with separatist forces, energy weapons flashing in the dim light. At the center of the melee stood a familiar figure, Zorak, his face contorted with rage. "We will not allow this abomination," the separatist leader roared, his eyes locking onto Gabriel and Hera. Gabriel felt a surge of energy course through his body, the lingering effects of the purification process enhancing his reflexes. He dodged a blast from a separatist weapon, moving with a grace he'd never possessed before. Beside him, Hera flowed like water through the battle, her movements perfectly complementing his own. Their partially formed bond allowed them to anticipate each other's actions, creating a deadly dance of synchronized combat. As they fought their way towards Zorak, Gabriel noticed something strange. The bioluminescent plants that filled the temple seemed to respond to his thoughts. With a mental push, he caused a cluster of vines to flare brightly, blinding a group of separatists. "Hera!" he called out mentally, marveling at their newfound ability to communicate telepathically. "The plants! I can control them!" Understanding flowed through their link. Hera immediately adapted her strategy, herding enemies into positions where Gabriel could use the disorienting light to their advantage. The tide of battle began to turn. Some of the separatists, witnessing the seamless cooperation between human and Zanari, hesitated in their attacks. Doubt crept into their ranks, their purpose wavering. Zorak, sensing his advantage slipping away, pulled out a strange, pulsating device. "If I cannot stop this union," he snarled, "then I will tear reality itself apart." Gabriel felt a wave of terror wash over him, not his own, but Hera's. Through their link, he understood the nature of the weapon. It was a forbidden piece of Zanari technology, capable of destabilizing the very fabric of space-time. In that moment, Gabriel and Hera moved as one. Their partially bonded minds worked in perfect harmony, calculating trajectories and formulating a plan without a word spoken between them. Gabriel used his newfound control over the bioluminescent plants to create a dazzling light show, disorienting Zorak and his loyalists. Hera capitalized on the distraction, her lithe form weaving through the chaos. She struck with precision, targeting pressure points unique to Zanari physiology that Gabriel's human mind could never have identified. As Zorak stumbled, his grip on the reality-warping device loosening, Gabriel made his move. He lunged forward, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to snatch the weapon from the separatist leader's grasp. The moment Gabriel's hand closed around the device, a shockwave of energy pulsed through the temple. The bioluminescent plants flared brilliantly, their light almost blinding. When the glow faded, Zorak and his remaining followers lay unconscious on the temple floor. Silence fell over the chamber. Gabriel and Hera stood at its center, their chests heaving from exertion, their minds still intimately linked. Around them, separatists and temple guards alike stared in awe at the display of unity they had just witnessed. As the High Council members emerged from their protective sanctuary, Gabriel felt a wave of exhaustion wash over him. The adrenaline of battle faded, leaving him acutely aware of the strange, half-formed bond between himself and Hera. The lead counselor approached, his face a mask of concern. "The Xanthor was interrupted," he said gravely. "The bonding process is incomplete. If it is not finished within the sacred time frame, the consequences could be severe." Gabriel looked at Hera, feeling the echo of her own uncertainty and fear through their fragile mental link. They had succeeded in repelling the attack, but at what cost? As the reality of their situation sank in, Gabriel realized that their greatest challenge still lay ahead. The fate of human Zanari relations and their own intertwined destinies hung in the balance, with time quickly running out. Out. Gabriel's mind raced, grappling with the gravity of their situation. "We must act quickly," the lead counselor urged, his voice tinged with urgency. "The sacred time frame is rapidly closing. We must complete the Xanthor, or the consequences could be dire for both of you." Before Gabriel could respond, he felt a wave of dizziness wash over him. He stumbled, catching himself on a nearby pillar. Hera was at his side in an instant, her cool hand steadying him. "The bond," she whispered, her voice strained. "It's becoming unstable." The High Council conferred briefly, their voices low and urgent. After a moment, the lead counselor turned back to Gabriel and Hera. "We have no choice," he declared. "You must be taken to the Nexus of communion. It's our only hope of completing the bonding ritual safely." Within minutes, Gabriel and Hera found themselves aboard a sleek Zenari transport vessel, speeding through the bioluminescent forest. The partially formed bond between them pulsed with each passing moment, sending jolts of sensation through their bodies. Gabriel gripped the edge of his seat, his knuckles tightening. "What's happening to us?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Hera's eyes met his, filled with a mixture of wonder and apprehension. "Our minds, our very beings, are trying to merge," she explained. "But the process is incomplete. We're caught between two states of existence." As they spoke, Gabriel became acutely aware of Hera's presence in his mind. He could sense her thoughts, her emotions, as if they were his own. The sensation was both exhilarating and terrifying. The transport broke through a dense canopy of glowing foliage, revealing an ancient structure unlike anything Gabriel had ever seen. Crystalline spires rose from the forest floor, pulsing with an otherworldly energy. "The Nexus of communion," Hera breathed, her awe bleeding through their shared consciousness. As they disembarked, they were greeted by a tall, willowy Zenari with luminous markings that seemed to shift and change with each movement. "I am Dr. Zenra," the Zenari introduced herself, her voice melodious yet tinged with concern. "I've been studying interspecies biology for decades, but I've never encountered a case quite like yours." Dr. Zenra led them into the heart of the Nexus, explaining as they walked. "The incomplete bond has created a unique physiological situation. Your bodies and minds are in flux, caught between human and Zenari states. If we don't stabilize the bond soon, the results could be catastrophic." They entered a chamber filled with humming crystalline structures. Dr. Zenra moved to a nearby console, retrieving a vial filled with a shimmering, opalescent liquid. "This serum," she explained, "should help stabilize your condition and facilitate the completion of the bonding process. But I must warn you, we're in uncharted territory. The risks are significant." As Gabriel and Hera exchanged glances, weighing their options, a new voice cut through the tension. "Hold on just a minute," the voice demanded. Gabriel turned to see Captain Marcus Stone, the head of his human security detail, striding into the chamber. "Captain Stone?" Gabriel acknowledged, surprise coloring his tone. "What are you doing here?" Stone's face was a mask of concern and barely concealed frustration. "I'm here to ensure your safety, Ambassador," he replied, his eyes darting between Gabriel and the Zenari present. "Earth is growing increasingly concerned about this situation. The diplomatic implications of your deep involvement with the Zenari are causing quite a stir back home." Gabriel felt a surge of irritation, both his own and Hera's. "With all due respect, Captain," he began, but Stone cut him off. "I understand the gravity of the situation," Stone said, his voice softening slightly. "But my duty is to protect you in the interests of Earth. I can't in good conscience allow you to proceed without fully understanding the risks." Dr. Zenra stepped forward, her luminous markings pulsing with an urgent rhythm. "I assure you, Captain, we are taking every precaution, but time is of the essence. If we don't complete the bonding process soon, both Ambassador Gabriel and Hera could suffer irreparable harm." Stone's lips pursed, but he nodded reluctantly. "Very well," he conceded, "but I'll be monitoring the situation closely." With the immediate objections addressed, Dr. Zenra guided Gabriel and Hera to two raised platforms at the center of the chamber. The crystalline structures around them began to pulse with increasing intensity, responding to their presence. "Are you ready?" Dr. Zenra asked, holding up the vial of shimmering serum. Gabriel looked at Hera, feeling the echo of her tenacity through their fragile link. They nodded in unison. As Dr. Zenra administered the serum, the chamber came alive with energy. The crystalline structures resonated at specific frequencies, creating a symphony of light and sound. Gabriel's world exploded into sensation. His mind expanded, merging with Hera's in a rush of memories, emotions, and alien perceptions. He saw the vastness of Zenari history unfold before him, felt the ebb and flow of their complex social structures, and experienced the depth of their connection to the natural world. Beside him, Hera gasped, her body arching as she was flooded with the full spectrum of human emotions and sensory experiences. Gabriel's childhood memories became her own. The taste of his favorite foods danced on her tongue, and the complex tapestry of human culture unfolded in her mind. But as the bonding process intensified, complications arose. Gabriel's body began to react adversely to the alien influence, his vital signs becoming erratic. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he fought to maintain control. Hera, too, struggled to maintain her identity as the flood of human consciousness threatened to overwhelm her. Her bioluminescent spots flickered erratically, a visual representation of her internal turmoil. Dr. Zenra's voice cut through the chaos, tinged with urgency. "The standard protocols aren't sufficient," she called out, her fingers flying over the control panel. "I'm modifying the resonance frequencies. We need to find a harmony between their physiologies." As Gabriel and Hera hovered on the brink of either a revolutionary union or potential destruction, alarms suddenly blared throughout the complex. Captain Stone's hand flew to his communicator, his face darkening as he received an urgent message. "We've got incoming," he shouted over the din. "A group of separatists has breached the outer defenses. They're headed this way." Dr. Zenra's eyes widened in alarm. "We can't stop now," she insisted. "Interrupting the process at this stage could be fatal." As the sounds of battle grew closer, Gabriel and Hera remained suspended in their transformative state, their bodies emitting a soft, otherworldly glow. The crystalline structures pulsed with increasing intensity, building towards some unknown crescendo. Captain Stone drew his weapon, positioning himself between the entrance and the vulnerable pair. "Whatever you're doing, Doc," he growled, "you better do it fast. We're running out of time." Dr. Zenra's hands flew over the controls, her face a mask of concentration. The air in the chamber grew thick with tension as the multiple crises converged. The fate of Gabriel, Hera, and the future of human-Zenari relations hanging in the balance. In the midst of the chaos, Gabriel and Hera's minds touched in a moment of perfect clarity. Their shared consciousness expanded, encompassing the room, the Nexus, and beyond. As the separatists closed in and the bonding process reached its peak, the universe itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see what would emerge from this unprecedented union. Union or potential destruction, the universe itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see what would emerge from this unprecedented melding of human and Zenari. Suddenly, a blinding flash of light erupted from the crystalline structures surrounding Gabriel and Hera. The intensity forced everyone in the chamber to shield their eyes, momentarily halting both the bonding process and the impending attack. As the light faded, gasps of astonishment filled the air. Gabriel and Hera stood at the center of the chamber, but they were no longer recognizable as separate entities. Their bodies had undergone a startling transformation, blending human and Zenari characteristics in ways previously thought impossible. Gabriel's skin now emitted a soft, pulsating glow, bioluminescent patterns dancing across his form. His eyes, once a deep brown, now shimmered with an otherworldly iridescence. Beside him, Hera's typically lithe Zenari frame had taken on a more humanoid shape, her limbs less elongated and her facial features a perfect fusion of both species. The sudden transformation created a moment of stunned silence. Even the advancing separatists, led by Vexara, halted their charge, momentarily shocked by the sight before them. Captain Stone, the first to recover, raised his weapon. "Whatever you've become," he said to Gabriel and Hera, "I hope you're on our side." Before either could respond, Vexara's voice cut through the silence. "Attack! Don't let their aberrant forms distract you from our goal!" As energy weapons flared to life, Gabriel and Hera moved in perfect synchronization. Their newly fused bodies reacted with impossible speed, deflecting energy blasts with their bare hands. The air crackled with each impact, but neither showed any sign of harm. "Impossible," Dr. Zenra whispered, her fingers flying over her datapad as she recorded the unprecedented events unfolding before her. Gabriel and Hera moved through the chamber like a single organism, their movements fluid and alien. They anticipated attacks before they occurred, weaving between energy blasts and incapacitating separatists with precise strikes. Captain Stone, adapting quickly to the situation, barked orders to his security team. Flank left. Support the hybrids. He paused, realizing the strangeness of his own words. As the battle intensified, Gabriel and Hera discovered new abilities manifesting moment by moment. With a shared thought, they generated a force field, deflecting a barrage of energy blasts aimed at Dr. Zenra. "The Nexus," Gabriel said, his voice carrying a new resonance. "We can feel its energy." Hera nodded, completing his thought. "We can control it." Together they reached out with their minds, interfacing directly with the ancient systems of the Nexus. The crystalline structures pulsed in response, channeling waves of energy that swept through the chamber, disarming separatists and shielding allies. Vexora, seeing her forces overwhelmed, snarled in frustration. She reached into her robes, pulling out a small, ominous-looking device. "If we cannot claim the Nexus," she shouted, "then no one shall have it." The device activated with a high-pitched whine, causing the crystalline structures to vibrate dangerously. Cracks began to appear in the chamber walls as the artifact's power built. Gabriel and Hera, their shared consciousness, sensing the imminent danger, knew they had to act quickly. They joined hands, their fused bodies glowing brighter as they channeled the Nexus's power to counteract the artifact's effects. The strain was immense. Sweat beaded on Gabriel's luminescent skin, while Hera's newly formed muscles trembled with exertion. They pushed themselves to the limit, their hybrid physiology allowing them to withstand energies that would have destroyed either a human or Zenari. Captain Stone, seeing an opportunity, launched himself at Vexora. In a daring tackle, he knocked the Separatist leader to the ground, the artifact skittering across the floor. "Now!" Stone shouted, pinning Vexora down. With a final surge of effort, Gabriel and Hera channeled a pulse of energy through the Nexus. The artifact sputtered and went dark, its threat neutralized. The remaining Separatists, seeing their leader subdued and their ultimate weapon defeated, threw down their arms in surrender. As the immediate danger passed, Gabriel and Hera's legs gave out. They collapsed to the floor, their fused bodies pulsating with residual energy. Dr. Zenra rushed to their side, her medical scanner whirring. "Their condition is highly unstable," she announced, her voice tight with concern. "The genetic changes are extraordinary, unlike anything I've ever seen." Captain Stone, handing Vexora off to his security team, approached the fallen hybrids. "What exactly are we dealing with here, Doctor?" Dr. Zenra's eyes widened as she processed the data on her scanner. "It appears the bonding process has created something entirely new, a true human Zenari hybrid, with a genetic structure that's still actively evolving." The implications of her words hung heavy in the air. Gabriel and Hera, still unconscious, represented a new chapter in the history of both species, and possibly the greatest challenge to the delicate peace between humans and Zenari. As medical teams rushed into the chamber, Captain Stone activated his comlink. "This is Stone. I need a direct line to Earth Command, Priority Alpha, and get me the Zenari High Council. We've got a situation here that's going to rewrite the book on interspecies relations." He looked down at Gabriel and Hera, their transformed bodies glowing softly in the dim light of the Nexus. Whatever they had become, Stone knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The aftermath of the battle left the Nexus chamber in disarray, but the focus remained on the unconscious forms of Gabriel and Hera. Their transformed bodies pulsed with an otherworldly glow, a testament to the unprecedented fusion of human and Zenari DNA. Dr. Zenra worked tirelessly, her luminous markings flickering with intense concentration as she pored over the complex data streaming from her medical scanners. Captain Stone paced nearby, his comlink buzzing with urgent messages from Earth Command and the Zenari High Council. "Their condition is critical," Dr. Zenra announced, her voice taut with concern. "The genetic changes are continuing at an alarming rate. We need to stabilize them before—" She was cut off by a sudden spike in the hybrid couple's vital signs. Gabriel and Hera's bodies convulsed, emitting a burst of energy that sent nearby equipment flying. "We're losing them!" Dr. Zenra shouted, her hands flying over the controls of her medical station. "I need more power to the stasis field." Captain Stone barked orders into his comlink, redirecting emergency power to the medical bay. The air crackled with tension as Dr. Zenra fought to save the lives of the two beings who now represented a new chapter in interstellar relations. For hours, the doctor worked without rest, combining advanced Zenari biotechnology with human medical techniques in ways never before attempted. Her efforts paid off when 3 days later, Gabriel and Hera's vital signs finally stabilized. As the hybrid couple slowly regained consciousness, their eyes fluttered open, revealing irises that shimmered with an iridescent light. Gabriel's gaze met Hera's, and in that moment, something extraordinary occurred. "I can feel you," Gabriel whispered, his voice tinged with awe. "Not just physically, but your thoughts, your emotions." Hera nodded, her newly formed facial features expressing a mix of wonder and confusion. "It's as if our minds are one, yet separate. Gabriel, what have we become?" Their silent communication was interrupted by Dr. Zenra's approach. "Fascinating," she murmured, studying the readings on her scanner. "You've developed a deep empathic link. This goes beyond anything we've seen in either human or Zenari physiology." Captain Stone stepped forward, his face a mask of professional concern. "I hate to interrupt, but we have a situation developing. The Zenari High Council has declared a state of emergency. They're establishing a secure facility around the Nexus, and I've been appointed head of security." Gabriel attempted to sit up, his body still adjusting to its new form. "What about Earth? How have they reacted to this?" He gestured to his transformed body. Stone's expression tightened. "Earth Command is demanding immediate access to you, Gabriel, but the Zenari aren't budging on shared jurisdiction. It's turning into a diplomatic nightmare." As if to underscore the captain's words, alarms suddenly blared throughout the complex. Stone's hand flew to his weapon as he activated his comm link. "Report!" "Sir," came the urgent reply, "we have multiple breaches at the outer perimeter. Protesters from both human and Zenari factions are attempting to force their way in." Gabriel and Hera exchanged a look, their newfound link allowing them to share their concern without words. They rose from their medical beds in perfect unison, their movements fluid and otherworldly. "We need to see this for ourselves," Hera said, her voice carrying a new resonance that seemed to blend her native Zenari tones with human inflections. Dr. Zenra moved to block their path. "You're not fully recovered. We don't know the extent of your new abilities or the potential risks." She was cut off as Gabriel and Hera simultaneously raised their hands, generating a shimmering force field that gently pushed the doctor aside. The act seemed to surprise even them, their eyes widening as they stared at their glowing palms. We didn't mean to do that," Gabriel said, looking to Captain Stone apologetically. "We're still learning to control this." Stone nodded grimly. "All the more reason to keep you both secure. Come on, let's get you to the command center where we can assess the situation." As they made their way through the facility, Gabriel and Hera marveled at how their bodies seemed to adapt instantaneously to their surroundings. They breathed easily in areas optimized for Zenari atmosphere, then transitioned seamlessly to human standard environments. Reaching the command center, they were confronted with a wall of view screens showing the chaos unfolding outside. Crowds of humans and Zenari alike surged against the perimeter fences, their faces contorted with a mix of fear, anger, and fascination. "Some see you as the next step in evolution," Stone explained, gesturing to the screens. "Others view you as an abomination. Either way, you've become the biggest story in 2 galaxies." Gabriel and Hera stepped closer to the screens, their hands intertwining instinctively. As they watched the tumultuous scenes, they felt a shared sense of purpose crystallizing between them. "We need to show them," Hera said softly. "Show them that this isn't something to fear." Gabriel nodded, completing her thought. "We need to demonstrate what we've become, not just for their sake, but for ours. We need to understand our own capabilities." Captain Stone eyed them warily. "That's easier said than done. We've got extremist groups calling for your heads, and intelligence reports suggest a conspiracy that goes deep into both human and Zenari governments." As if on cue, a new alert flashed across the screens. Stone's face darkened as he read the incoming message. "Vexara's interrogation has uncovered a group called the Purifiers. They've infiltrated high levels on both sides, and their sole purpose is to prevent any form of human Zenari integration." Gabriel and Hera shared a look, their empathic link buzzing with a mixture of purpose and apprehension. They turned to face Captain Stone and Dr. Zenra, their bodies emitting a soft, pulsating glow. "Then we'll need to train," Gabriel said, his voice resolute. "Learn to harness these new abilities." Hera nodded, adding, "And prepare ourselves for whatever challenges lie ahead." As alarm klaxons continued to blare and the crowds outside grew more restless, Gabriel and Hera stood at the center of the command room, their transformed bodies a living symbol of the potential for unity between their species. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with danger and opposition, but in that moment they knew that they faced it together, not just as individuals, but as something entirely new in the cosmos. Universe. The weight of their newfound responsibility settled upon them as they turned their attention to the challenges that lay ahead. In the weeks that followed, Gabriel and Hera underwent intensive training to harness their evolving abilities. The secure facility became their proving ground as they pushed the limits of their hybrid physiology under the watchful eyes of Dr. Zenara and a team of human and Zenari scientists. Captain Stone's voice crackled over the intercom, interrupting a particularly grueling session. "Gabriel, Hera, report to the command center immediately." They exchanged a glance, their empathic link buzzing with shared curiosity and apprehension. As they made their way through the facility's corridors, they noticed an increased level of activity among the staff. The command center was a hive of activity when they arrived. Stone stood at the center, his face grim as he studied a holographic display of a space station. "We've received intelligence about a planned purifier attack," Stone said without preamble. "They're targeting the upcoming demonstration on the neutral station." Gabriel's eyes narrowed as he examined the hologram. "They're getting bold. A public attack like this." Hera completed his thought. "They must be desperate to stop us from showcasing our abilities." Stone nodded. "Exactly. Which is why we're going ahead with the demonstration as planned. We'll use this opportunity to draw them out and put an end to their operations." As the day of the demonstration approached, tension mounted within the facility. Gabriel and Hera spent long hours fine-tuning their abilities, pushing themselves to new limits. Their bodies continued to evolve, each day bringing new surprises and challenges. The morning of the event arrived with a palpable sense of anticipation. As Gabriel and Hera boarded the transport to the neutral station, Captain Stone briefed them on the final security measures. "Remember," he said, his voice low and urgent, "we expect them to make their move during the demonstration. Stay alert and trust your instincts." The neutral station loomed before them, a marvel of joint human-Zenari engineering. As they docked, Gabriel and Hera could see the crowds gathering in the station's vast central arena through the viewports. Dr. Zenra approached them as they prepared to enter the arena. "Your vital signs are stable," she reported, her luminous markings pulsing with concern. "But please be cautious. We still don't fully understand the extent of your abilities." Gabriel nodded, his hand finding Hera's. Together they stepped into the arena, greeted by a wave of sound from the assembled crowd. Billions more watched via live broadcast across both civilizations. The demonstration began smoothly. Gabriel showcased his enhanced strength, effortlessly lifting massive structures that would have challenged even the strongest Zenari. Hera followed, manipulating the station's energy fields to create breathtaking displays of light and color. As they moved into a joint demonstration of their abilities, Gabriel felt a sudden spike of alarm through his link with Hera. At that moment, the station shuddered, and gravity began to fluctuate wildly. "It's starting," Hera said, her voice tight with concentration as she worked to stabilize the gravity around them. Gabriel reached out with his senses, feeling the chaos spreading through the station. "The purifiers must have infiltrated the maintenance crew. We need to contain this quickly." Working in tandem, they extended their influence throughout the station, counteracting the gravity anomalies and preventing structural damage. Through their empathic link, they coordinated their efforts with inhuman precision. Suddenly, alarms blared as a cloaked ship breached the station's defenses. Gabriel sensed the surge of hostile intent moments before the first purifier strike team emerged from a damaged airlock. "Hera, we need to split up," Gabriel called out, already moving to intercept the attackers. "You focus on protecting the civilians. I'll handle the strike team." Hera nodded, her body glowing with concentrated energy, as she created a series of force fields to guide panicked spectators to safety. Gabriel engaged the purifiers, his hybrid physiology allowing him to anticipate and counter their attacks with superhuman speed. But as the battle intensified, he realized their weapons were specifically designed to target his unique biology. A searing bolt of energy caught him in the chest, sending him staggering back. Gabriel gasped as he felt his cells begin to destabilize. Through their link, he sensed Hera's alarm and her immediate response. In a flash of light, Hera was at his side. Together they faced the Purifier leader, a grim-faced human who could only be Colonel Garrett. "This ends now," Garrett snarled, activating a device that pulsed with ominous energy. Pain lanced through Gabriel and Hera as the device targeted their hybrid physiology. They fell to their knees, their bodies flickering as if threatening to come apart at the molecular level. In that moment of shared agony, Gabriel and Hera made a desperate choice. They reached for each other, not just physically but with their minds and very essence. The arena filled with blinding light as their bodies merged, forming a single luminous entity of immense power. The merge being towered over the astounded purifiers, radiating an aura of energy that short-circuited their weapons. With a thought, the Gabriel-Hera entity neutralized the purifier's destabilizing device. Another pulse of energy incapacitated the attackers, leaving them unconscious on the arena floor. The merged being then turned its attention to the station itself. Bathed in its radiance, damaged systems repaired themselves, and the chaotic energy fluctuations subsided. As the immediate threat passed, the strain of maintaining their merged form became overwhelming. In a flash of light, Gabriel and Hera separated, collapsing to the arena floor. The last thing Gabriel saw before losing consciousness was Dr. Zenra rushing towards them, her face a mask of concern and wonder. As darkness claimed him, he felt Hera's presence in his mind, a comforting reminder that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. Together, whatever form that might take. When Gabriel regained consciousness, he found himself in a medical bay, the familiar hum of monitoring equipment filling his ears. He turned his head to see Hera in the adjacent bed, her eyes already open and fixed on him. Their empathic link thrummed with shared relief and lingering concern. "How long were we out?" Gabriel asked, his voice hoarse. Dr. Zenra approached, her luminous markings pulsing with a mix of excitement and worry. "Nearly 48 hours. Your hybrid physiology is remarkable. You've both fully recovered from injuries that would have been fatal to either species." Before they could discuss further, Captain Stone entered the room, his face etched with lines of fatigue and stress. "I'm glad to see you both awake. We need to move quickly. An emergency summit has been called in the wake of the attack, and you're both required to attend." Gabriel and Hera exchanged a glance, their link buzzing with shared apprehension. As they prepared for the journey, Dr. Zenra briefed them on the political firestorm their merged form had ignited across both civilizations. The neutral space station loomed before them as their shuttle approached, its sleek design a testament to human Zenari cooperation. Inside, the atmosphere was tense, with delegates from both species eyeing each other warily. Ambassador Lydia Chen, Earth's representative, greeted them as they entered the main chamber. "Gabriel, Hera, I'm glad you could join us. Your presence here is controversial, to say the least." As if to underscore her point, Zorthak, a member of the Zenari High Council, approached with narrowed eyes. "These hybrids are an abomination," he hissed. "Their very existence threatens the purity of both our species." Gabriel felt Hera's anger flare through their link, but before either could respond, Ambassador Chen intervened. "Counselor Zorthak, I remind you that Gabriel and Hera are here as key witnesses to the Purifier attack. Their insights are crucial to our discussions." The summit proceeded with heated debates erupting between pro-integration and isolationist factions. Gabriel and Hera sat silently, their discomfort growing as they were discussed as subjects rather than participants. During a recess, as delegates milled about in tense conversation, Gabriel felt a sudden spike of alarm through his link with Hera. Their eyes met, a wordless understanding passing between them. Without drawing attention, they slipped away from the main chamber, following the trail of unease that pulsed through their shared consciousness. Their hybrid senses led them deep into the station's maintenance tunnels, where they discovered a hidden explosive device connected to the power core. Working in tandem, they carefully neutralized the threat, their bodies moving with inhuman grace and precision. As Gabriel extracted the final component, Hera suddenly gasped, doubling over. "Hera, what's wrong?" Gabriel asked, rushing to her side. She looked up at him, her eyes wide. "Something's happening. I can feel it. We're changing again." Gabriel realized he felt it too. A strange energy coursing through his body, making his skin tingle and his vision blur. They stumbled back towards the summit chamber, their bodies beginning to emit a faint, pulsating glow. As they burst into the room, delegates turned to stare in shock. Gabriel tried to speak, to warn them of the thwarted attack, but found his voice failing him. He looked down to see his hand phasing in and out of visibility. Captain Stone, ever alert, quickly took charge. "Everyone back! Clear the area around them!" Dr. Zenra rushed forward, her medical scanner whirring. Their hybrid physiology is undergoing another transformation. The stress of their recent actions must have triggered it. The summit erupted into chaos. Some delegates called for Gabriel and Hera to be contained, while others argued for allowing the transformation to proceed. Through the cacophony, Gabriel and Hera clung to each other, their bodies flickering like candles in a storm. Ambassador Chen's voice cut through the noise. "We need to create a controlled environment for them, immediately. This could be our chance to understand the full potential of human-Zenari hybridization." As preparations began, Gabriel and Hera found their consciousness expanding beyond their physical forms. Visions of possible futures flooded their minds, scenes of harmonious integration between humans and Zenari, contrasted with images of devastating conflicts. Fighting against the overwhelming tide of information and sensation, Gabriel managed to lock eyes with Ambassador Chen. "Please," he gasped, his voice distorted and ethereal, "let us complete this transformation. It's not just about us. It's about the future of both our species." The debate raged on as Gabriel and Hera's transformation accelerated. Dr. Zenra and her human counterpart, Dr. Rodriguez, presented data showing the exponential increase in the hybrid's energy output. "We can't stop this process now," Dr. Rodriguez warned. "Any attempt to intervene could be catastrophic." With time running out, the summit leaders made their decision. A specialized chamber was hastily prepared, equipped with the most advanced monitoring technology from both civilizations. As Gabriel and Hera were moved into the chamber, their bodies now emanating an intense otherworldly light, the entire station shuddered. Gravity fluctuated wildly, and strange temporal anomalies began to manifest around them. Captain Stone's voice crackled over the station-wide comm system. "All non-essential personnel, evacuate to the emergency shuttles immediately. This is not a drill." Inside the chamber, Gabriel and Hera's physical forms began to lose definition, enveloped in a cocoon of swirling energy. Their minds, still linked, reached out to each other in the chaos of their transformation. As the energy around them intensified, the last thing Gabriel saw before his vision was entirely consumed was the awestruck and fearful faces of the summit delegates pressed against the chamber's observation window. Whatever came next, he knew, would change everything. The chamber pulsed with blinding light, the very fabric of space-time seeming to warp around it. On the other side of the reinforced glass, scientists, delegates, and security personnel watched in a mixture of wonder and trepidation, knowing they were witnessing a moment that would redefine the future of human-Zenari relations forever. The chamber pulsed with ever-increasing intensity, the energy emanating from Gabriel and Hera's cocoon reaching critical levels. Alarms blared throughout the station as systems began to fail, overwhelmed by the raw power radiating from the metamorphosing hybrids. Captain Stone's voice cut through the chaos, his tone urgent but controlled. "All non-essential personnel, evacuate immediately. This is not a drill. Proceed to emergency shuttles in an orderly fashion." As the station shuddered, Dr. Zenra and Dr. Rodriguez worked feverishly at their consoles, analyzing the unprecedented energy readings. Their eyes widened in simultaneous realization. "This signature," Dr. Zenra breathed, her luminous markings pulsing rapidly. It matches the dormant artifacts we found on abandoned worlds. Dr. Rodriguez nodded, his fingers flying over the holographic interface. And look at this. We're receiving reports of similar energy spikes across known space. Those artifacts are activating. Before they could discuss further, the cocoon of energy suddenly expanded, engulfing the entire chamber in a blinding flash. The observers shielded their eyes, and when they looked back, they gasped in collective awe. Where Gabriel and Hera had been, two shimmering, ethereal figures now stood. Their bodies seemed to flicker in and out of reality, partially existing in another dimension. Their eyes, once familiar, now held the depth of galaxies. Gabriel's voice, when he spoke, resonated with newfound power. "We see everything." Hera nodded, her form rippling like starlight on water. "The fabric of space-time itself is open to us now." As the hybrid couple adjusted to their transcendent state, a new threat loomed. A massive ship, ancient beyond reckoning, appeared at the edge of the system. Its design was unlike anything human or Zanari eyes had ever seen. Gabriel and Hera turned as one, their expanded consciousness instantly grasping the situation. With a thought, they created a protective field around the station, shielding it from the immense gravitational forces generated by the approaching vessel. Ambassador Chen stepped forward, her voice trembling slightly. "What is that ship? Who's coming?" "The architects," Hera replied, her voice echoing with cosmic knowledge. "The beings who seeded both Earth and the Zanari homeworld with life millions of years ago. They've awakened." Gabriel nodded, his form shimmering. "Our union, our transformation. It's signaled to them that their creation has reached a new stage of evolution." The assembled leaders exchanged looks of shock and fear. Zorthak, the Zanari counselor, who had earlier denounced the hybrids, now looked upon them with a mixture of awe and trepidation. Ambassador Chen, ever the diplomat, gathered herself. "What do we do? How do we prepare for their arrival?" Gabriel and Hera communed silently for a moment, their linked minds processing millennia of shared knowledge. "We must establish contact," Gabriel said. "The network of activated artifacts can serve as a communication link." As preparations for this unprecedented cosmic dialogue began, a new threat emerged from within. Victor Graves, a human extremist leading a radical faction of purifiers, had infiltrated the station's lower levels. "We can't let this happen," Graves snarled to his followers as they worked to overload the station's power core. "Better to die in fire than allow these abominations to corrupt humanity." Gabriel and Hera, their consciousness expanded beyond normal limits, sensed the danger instantly. They split their focus, part of them maintaining the protective field and preparing for the architect's arrival, while another part turned their attention to the internal threat. Using their newfound ability to manipulate energy, they reached out across the station. The purifiers watched in horror as the power core, on the verge of overload, suddenly stabilized. The energy they had unleashed was contained and dispersed harmlessly. Captain Stone, alerted to the situation, led a team to apprehend Graves and his cohorts. As they were led away in restraints, the captain's eyes met Gabriel's otherworldly gaze. A silent understanding passed between them. The threat was neutralized, but the underlying tensions remained. The architect's ship drew closer, its size dwarfing the station. A beam of pure energy lanced out, engulfing Gabriel and Hera. To the observers, it seemed as if the hybrid couple had vanished, but in reality, they had been drawn into direct contact with the cosmic entities. In that moment of connection, Gabriel and Hera experienced eons of knowledge and purpose. They saw the grand design of the architects, the careful cultivation of life across the galaxy, the patient wait for species to reach the threshold of transcendence. As the contact continued, Gabriel and Hera felt their bodies fluctuate. At times, they appeared almost human, then shifted to seem more Zanari, occasionally phasing into pure energy. The strain of maintaining their corporeal forms while interfacing with the cosmic consciousness of the architects was taking its toll. Dr. Zenra noticed the instability immediately. "Their hybrid physiology is struggling to contain this new state," she said urgently to Dr. Rodriguez. "If we don't find a way to stabilize them, they might lose their physical forms entirely." As the cosmic revelation unfolded, Gabriel and Hera faced an impossible choice. The architects offered them ascension, the chance to leave their physical forms behind and join them in a higher plane of existence. But doing so would mean abandoning their roles as bridges between humanity, the Zanari, and this new cosmic reality. The station hung in space, surrounded by the shimmering protective field, as two civilizations held their breath. The future of human-Zanari relations, the evolution of both species, and perhaps the destiny of all sentient life in the galaxy, hinged on the decision of these two remarkable beings. Gabriel and Hera, their forms flickering between states of matter and energy, turned to face the assembled leaders. The weight of cosmic knowledge shone in their eyes, tempered by the very human and Zanari emotions that had brought them together in the first place. "We stand at a crossroads," Gabriel began, his voice resonating with power and uncertainty. Hera continued, her form shimmering like a distant star. "The choice we make now will shape the future of both our peoples, and perhaps all life in the galaxy." As they prepared to reveal their decision, the station hummed with tension, the assembled leaders leaning forward in anticipation. The next words spoken would set in motion a chain of events that would forever alter the course of two civilizations and beyond. Shape the course of two civilizations and beyond. Gabriel and Hera exchanged a meaningful glance, their forms still shifting between states of matter and energy. With a shared nod, they made their decision. "We choose to remain," Gabriel announced, his voice resonating with newfound power and conviction. Hera continued, her form shimmering like stardust. "We will serve as a bridge between our worlds and the cosmic realm." As soon as the words left their lips, a brilliant beam of energy shot forth from the architect's vessel, enveloping the hybrid couple. The assembled leaders gasped, shielding their eyes from the intense light. When they looked again, they saw Gabriel and Hera's forms solidifying, their bodies taking on a harmonious blend of human and Zanari features. Their skin now shimmered with a subtle bioluminescence, reminiscent of the Zanari, while retaining the general structure of human physiology. Their eyes glowed with an otherworldly intelligence, seeming to hold the depths of the cosmos within. As the energy beam dissipated, Gabriel and Hera flexed their newly stabilized forms. With a mere thought, they extended their hands, manipulating the energy around them to repair the damage caused to the station during their transformation in the Purifier attack. The assembled crowd watched in awe as twisted metal straightened and shattered systems reassembled themselves. Ambassador Chen stepped forward, her voice filled with wonder. What are you now?" Gabriel smiled, the expression both familiar and alien on his transformed face. "We are what we've always been, a union of human and Zanari. But now, we're something more as well." Hera nodded, her luminescent skin pulsing gently. "We retain our connection to the cosmic realm, but we can fully interact with the physical world. We will guide both our peoples towards a new era of cooperation and understanding." As they spoke, the massive architect's ship began to move away from the station. A final pulse of energy washed over Gabriel and Hera, carrying with it a vast repository of knowledge. The hybrid couple's eyes widened as information about the origins of life in the galaxy and potential futures for both civilizations flooded their minds. The neural overload proved too much, even for their enhanced forms. Gabriel and Hera collapsed, their bodies glowing faintly as their minds processed the cosmic data dump. Dr. Zenra rushed forward, her medical scanner whirring. "They're unconscious but stable. Their neural pathways are reconfiguring to accommodate the new information." Captain Stone, who had been coordinating security efforts throughout the station, approached the group. "Ambassador Chen, we've apprehended Victor Graves and his Purifier associates. What are your orders?" Chen's eyes darted between the unconscious hybrids and the expectant captain. "Secure them in the brig for now. We need to convene an emergency session with the Zanari High Council to discuss these developments." As the station buzzed with activity, news of the architect's visit and Gabriel and Hera's transformation spread like wildfire. Scientists from both species clamored for access to the activated artifacts, while political leaders scrambled to address the shifting public opinion. Hours passed as Gabriel and Hera remained unconscious, their minds assimilating the vast knowledge bestowed upon them. In the interim, Ambassador Chen and the Zanari High Council worked tirelessly, drafting plans for a new joint Human-Zanari Integration Council. When Gabriel and Hera finally stirred, they found themselves in the medical bay, surrounded by anxious faces. Dr. Rodriguez helped them sit up, his eyes wide with curiosity. "How do you feel?" Gabriel blinked, his glowing eyes focusing on the room. "Different. Expanded. It's as if we can see the threads of reality itself." Hera nodded, her gaze distant. "We perceive potential futures, the intricate dance of galactic dynamics. And yet, Ambassador Chen prompted, leaning forward. "We struggle to connect with our former selves," Hera admitted. "The concerns that once seemed so important now feel small." Gabriel squeezed her hand, the gesture a reminder of their shared humanity and Zanari heritage. "But we understand the importance of bridging these perspectives. It's why we chose to stay." As they spoke, alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. Captain Stone's voice crackled over the intercom, urgency evident in his tone. "All personnel to emergency stations. We're detecting a massive object on a collision course with our solar system." Gabriel and Hera exchanged a knowing look, their enhanced senses already perceiving the threat. They rose in unison, their bodies glowing with barely held back energy. "We need to get to the command center," Gabriel stated, his voice carrying an otherworldly resonance. "The time has come for humans and Zanari to truly unite." As they moved through the corridors, crew members stared in awe at the transformed hybrids. Gabriel and Hera paid them no mind, their thoughts already racing ahead to the impending crisis. They knew that the challenge before them would require unprecedented cooperation between their species. Entering the command center, they found it abuzz with frantic activity. Holographic displays showed the trajectory of a massive asteroid, its path intersecting with both Earth and the Zanari homeworld. Ambassador Chen turned to them, her face pale. "Please tell me you have a solution." Gabriel nodded, his eyes gleaming with cosmic knowledge. "We do, but it will require every resource at our disposal, both human and Zanari." Hera stepped forward, manipulating the holographic display with a wave of her hand. "We propose creating a deflection field using our energy manipulation abilities, combined with the power of the activated artifacts." As they outlined their plan, the weight of the situation settled over the room. The fate of both civilizations now hung in the balance, with success dependent on the very cooperation they had been striving to achieve. Gabriel and Hera stood at the center of the command center, their shimmering forms a stark contrast to the controlled chaos around them. As they began coordinating the mammoth effort to save both worlds, they realized that their journey, and the true test of human Zanari unity, had only just begun. As Gabriel and Hera turned their attention to coordinating the massive effort to save both worlds, a sudden flash of awareness struck them simultaneously. Their enhanced senses, attuned to the fabric of space-time itself, detected an anomaly. Gabriel's eyes narrowed, his bioluminescent skin pulsing with increased intensity. "Hera, do you feel that?" She nodded, her gaze distant as she processed the information flooding her consciousness. "The asteroid, it's not what it seems." Using their newfound abilities, they probed deeper into the approaching object. As they peeled back layers of reality, a shocking truth revealed itself. The asteroid was not a natural occurrence at all, but an elaborate ruse. "Ambassador Chen," Gabriel called out, his voice carrying an urgency that instantly silenced the bustling command center. "We need to modify our plans immediately. The threat we face is far more complex than we initially believed." Chen approached, her expression a mix of concern and curiosity. "What have you discovered?" Hera manipulated the holographic display, revealing a shimmering field surrounding the asteroid. "This collision is not a natural event. It's the result of advanced cloaking technology, concealing a massive ship." Gasps echoed through the command center as the implications sank in. Gabriel continued, "We're dealing with a previously unknown species. They call themselves the Voidborn, energy beings who view the expansion of corporeal life as a threat. They engineered this crisis to eliminate both humans and Zanari in one fell swoop," Hera added, her voice grim. Ambassador Chen's face paled. "Can we still deflect it?" Not in its current form, Gabriel replied, but we can adapt our plan. We need to assemble a joint human-Zanari fleet immediately. Hera and I will lead them to confront this threat directly. As Chen relayed orders and the command center erupted into frenzied activity, Gabriel and Hera shared a moment of silent communication. Their enhanced minds interfaced seamlessly, formulating strategies and contingencies at an incredible speed. Within hours, a fleet of the most advanced human and Zanari ships ever assembled had gathered near the station. Gabriel and Hera stood on the bridge of the flagship, their shimmering forms a beacon of hope and unity for the combined crews. As the fleet approached the disguised Voidborn ship, Gabriel and Hera channeled their energy manipulation abilities. A pulse of pure power emanated from them, piercing through the cloaking field. The massive form of an alien vessel, sleek and otherworldly, shimmered into view. "All ships, hold your fire," Hera commanded, her voice resonating through the communication channels. "We will attempt to establish contact." Before they could broadcast a message, the Voidborn ship launched a barrage of energy projectiles. The human Zanari fleet scattered, their movements coordinated with uncanny precision thanks to Gabriel and Hera's cosmic awareness guiding them. A fierce space battle erupted. Human railguns and Zanari plasma lances crisscrossed the void, meeting the Voidborn's energy weapons in brilliant explosions. Through it all, Gabriel and Hera's minds raced, drawing upon the knowledge bestowed by the architects. "We can't destroy them," Gabriel said, his eyes glowing with willpower. "There has to be a way to neutralize the threat without resorting to annihilation." Hera nodded, an idea forming in her mind. "If we can establish a direct link with their consciousness, perhaps we can show them a different path." Together they began to weave an intricate pattern of energy, their hybrid bodies pulsing with power. A massive vortex of swirling light formed around the Voidborn ship, growing in intensity with each passing moment. As the vortex enveloped the alien vessel, Gabriel and Hera extended their consciousness, reaching out to touch the minds of the Voidborn. They projected visions of a future where energy beings and corporeal species coexisted in harmony, sharing knowledge and resources across the vastness of space. The strain of maintaining the energy vortex while establishing the telepathic link was immense. Gabriel and Hera's physical forms began to flicker, oscillating between solid matter and pure energy. Alarms blared on the flagship's bridge as sensors detected the destabilization of their hybrid physiology. "We're losing them!" Dr. Zenra's voice came through the comms, panic evident in her tone. But Gabriel and Hera persevered, pushing their abilities to the very limit. In that moment of crisis, they felt a shift in the Voidborn's collective consciousness. The alien beings, their minds expanded by the connection, began to reconsider their destructive path. Suddenly, the energy barrage from the Voidborn ship ceased. A moment of tense silence fell over the battlefield as both fleets waited to see what would happen next. A voice, unlike anything heard before by human or Zanari ears, resonated through the minds of all present. "We understand. The path of destruction is not the only way. We will cease hostilities and engage in dialogue." As the energy vortex dissipated, Gabriel and Hera collapsed to the deck, their hybrid forms barely holding together. The last thing they saw before losing consciousness was the concerned faces of the bridge crew rushing to their aid. They awoke in a specially prepared medical bay, their bodies still flickering between states of matter and energy. Dr. Zenra and Dr. Rodriguez worked feverishly, using a combination of advanced medical technology and the knowledge gained from studying Gabrielle and Hera's unique physiology. "Their hybrid DNA is mutating further," Dr. Zenra reported, her voice tense. The strain of maintaining that energy vortex pushed them to the brink of ascending beyond physical form. As the doctors continued their efforts to stabilize them, Gabriel and Hera found themselves sharing a moment of intimate mental connection. In this space between worlds, they reflected on the incredible journey that had brought them to this point. "From a diplomatic hookup to cosmic guardians," Gabriel mused, his mental voice tinged with both amusement and awe. Hera's consciousness entwined with his, a sensation of warmth and love flowing between them. "And every step of the way, we've faced it together." Their shared emotions seemed to have a stabilizing effect on their fluctuating forms. Dr. Rodriguez noticed the change immediately, calling out in excitement, Their vital signs are stabilizing. Whatever they're doing, it's working. As Gabriel and Hera slowly regained full consciousness, they became aware of the profound changes that had occurred during their ordeal. The commingled human, Zenari, and cosmic energies within them had reached a new equilibrium, granting them even greater abilities and insights. News of the averted crisis and the revelation of the Voidborn spread rapidly through both human and Zenari societies. The successful cooperation in the face of an existential threat cemented the bond between the two species. Reports came in of the last purifier cells dissolving, their ideology thoroughly discredited in the wake of overwhelming public support for integration. Weeks passed as Gabriel and Hera recovered, their new forms stabilizing into a radiant synthesis of human, Zenari, and cosmic energies. As they prepared to address the leaders of the three civilizations, they knew that this was just the beginning of a new chapter in galactic history. The newly constructed space station, positioned at the midpoint between Earth and the Zenari homeworld, bustled with activity as representatives from human, Zenari, and Voidborn societies gathered for a historic ceremony. The eyes of trillions across three civilizations were fixed on this moment, watching as a new era of cooperation and understanding was about to dawn. Gabriel and Hera stood hand in hand, their shimmering forms a living symbol of unity and diversity. As they stepped forward to address the assembled dignitaries, they knew that their words would shape the course of galactic civilization for generations to come.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.